I've talked about the best and worst cards when it comes to the Hobbit draft format, and a lot of you in the comments are saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. So in this video, we're going to talk about the cards that I was right about and the cards that I was also wrong about, so that you can see if you are actually smarter than me when it comes to draft. So first, when I made my best rares video, a lot of you in the comments were saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, and some of these rares are really good and super busted, and they help you win all your games. So the first one is Balin, Lore Master. Everybody said that this card is so good because you get to draw extra cards, get rid of your lands, and do damage to your opponent, but it has a 51% win rate, which would basically make this like a D level card. Now for reference, I'm using the game in hand win rates from 17 lands, and the average win rate for a card is around 55%. So a card with 55% win rate would be basically a C. Now anything below that is obviously going to be worse. Now the reason why Balin is so bad is number one, the stats. It's a 5 mana 4/4, and also you don't get to choose what cards you're discarding. You would have to discard your entire hand, and that's why I knew this card was gonna be bad. Next, everyone in the comments was saying from my pre-release recap video that Part in Friendship is a bomb level card and it won all the games, and I don't know what I'm talking about because you just get to keep recycling and replaying all your creatures. But it also has a 51% win rate, which also makes it a D. The reason why I think this card is so bad is because it only triggers once per turn. And in this fast format, if you take turn 5 off to play Part in Friendship, you're not actually affecting the board in a meaningful way. And sometimes when your creature dies, like let's say they kill your 5 mana creature, you may just hit a 2-drop. So you're not really getting that much of an advantage here. I can see how in other formats this could be a really annoying and amazing enchantment, but there are other cards that just work better. Like we had the card in Marvel Superheroes where your villains would just come back and it wasn't limited to once per turn. So I just don't think that this card is made for this type of format, but in other formats, this card could be great. But in general, you don't want to play cards that don't affect the board at all, that cost 4 or 5 mana. Another card that everybody famously in the comments said was going to be an amazing card, the best card that they've ever played with, and it's going to be like time walking your opponent, was Bilbo's Gambit. And I said this was going to be really bad because unlike Reprieve, which everyone thought this would be the same thing, Reprieve lets you draw cards, so you're not actually going down any resources. Here, everybody said, well, you just gift a treasure and then you basically make them end their turn. But what everyone didn't realize is you're just not letting them cast spells, so they can still attack you. And that's why this has a 48% win rate in draft, which basically makes this an F level card. Now, let's talk about some cards that I got wrong. In my best rares video for draft, I said Stone Giant of the High Pass would be one of the biggest bombs in the whole format because it's a huge creature. You can sack the token, you can start doing damage to face and killing creatures for free basically. The problem is it's a 7 mana creature, and this is one of the fastest formats ever for limited. This format is so fast that going first gives you a 56% win rate. So you're heavily disadvantaged just from going second, which shows you how aggressive of a format this is. This is a very good card, but it's just too slow for the Hobbit format. I also said Smog Wicked Worm would be one of the biggest bombs. I put it in the tier 1 level of best rares because I thought there would be a lot of artifacts running around, and then you could start to draw cards, and this is just a good flyer. Like a 5 mana 5/5 flyer is something that can end the game in a few attacks. The problem is this has no enter the battlefield abilities, and it's just too slow for this type of format. I think in other formats this would be a very reasonable top-end threat, but because you basically need to play Curve Out, and playing this as a blocker is just too risky. Now, another card that all of you in the comments said was going to be amazing and a bomb is Radagast. And everyone said this is going to be great, and it was awesome at their pre-release because you just got to flash in creatures during your opponent's turn, making it super difficult. They couldn't attack you and stuff like that. It has a 51% win rate, so it's also a D level card. And the reason why is because it doesn't actually give you any card advantage. So it does give you discounts, but it by itself doesn't attack well. It's an okay blocker. It's got 5 toughness, but it doesn't really kill anything, which is a problem. And yeah, sure, you can flash in some creatures on your opponent's turn, but this is limited. So you're only going to have like maybe 3 top-end cards, or cards that cost 5 or more mana in your general limited deck. And because, again, this format is so fast, you need to have like 8 2-drops. So you're really only getting a 1 mana discount to flash in most of your cards. Another card you all said in the comments would be amazing and a bomb and a best rare is Sting. And this card is also a F. And the exact reasons for what I said is this is only good if you somehow let your opponents have way more creatures than you, which in that case you would lose that game anyways. And also it doesn't improve the toughness. So you're flashing this in and getting a big power boost, and then you have to pay 3 mana, which is a lot for an equipment, to put it onto another creature, which doesn't help it survive combat. So it can attack one time and then it dies. A lot of the times when I've seen my opponents play Sting, it's a 2 mana equipment that gives +2. That's it. So definitely not worth it. And you got to think about the equip cost of 3, which is really expensive. In limited, an equip cost of 2 or less is usually where you want to be. Another card that I said was going to be a trap card in my best rares video, but a few of you said that this is a bomb level card, is Inside Information. This is also basically an F. The reason why is because, number one, this is a fast format, so you can't really take turn 5 off to lose like 6 or 7 life. And also, the fact that you are encouraged to play your land before you play Inside Information so you can see more of the cards in your opponent's decks makes it like the higher probability that you're going to whiff more. Like if you could play this on your turn 6 with before playing your mana, so you would basically get to see 3 of your opponent's cards, then you can play one of their lands and maybe cast 2 of their cards, but you're going to take a lot of damage from this, and it's just not an optimal turn 5 or turn 6 play in such an aggressive format. I think potentially in other formats, if there was like a life gain deck where you wouldn't have to worry about potentially killing yourself, this could be much better. Now, I was also wrong about a few cards. In some of my videos, I tried to predict the mythic level uncommons in the set, and I said Sylvan Reveler and Old Fat Spider Can't See Me would be like mythic level uncommons, and turns out these are actually the worst performing uncommons in the entire set. I thought Sylvan Reveler would be great to give you card advantage because it has a real enter the battlefield ability, and it synergizes perfectly with what the elf deck wants to do. And it would be good to trade off. It's good for you to discard with your recruit cards so that you can get it back later. So I just thought it had a lot of good synergies, but it's just too understated and way too slow in this type of format. There is no real control deck that's performing well. All of the good decks right now are aggro decks. So Sylvan Reveler just doesn't fit into the format. And then Old Fat Spider Can't See Me. I just thought, a saga that gives you so much value and it has 4 chapters, draws you 2 cards, lets you trigger your draw 2 cards for free, basically, for 2 turns in a row. And then you basically get to nullify one of your opponent's creatures for 3 turns. I thought all of that packaged in for 3 mana would be really great with the synergies and the defensive capabilities for a control deck. But because there is no good control deck and it's too slow in the format, that's why this card is pretty bad. The next card you all said would be amazing is Through the Forest Gate, because for 8 mana you thought you could trigger all of your amazing landfall triggers, and some of you even said how you lost to this card in pre-release and everyone had cool combos. This card is so bad that there isn't even enough data on 17 lands because people know not to even put this card in their deck. That's how bad this card is. Next is Roll, 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 Roll. All of you thought this would be amazing because you get to trigger your Enter the Battlefield abilities and you get to replay your lands every turn for an extra landfall trigger. But this card is like an F-, if that's even possible. 44% win rate. As I predicted, just not enough stuff to combo this with, and it only targets lands and creatures. If you could flicker like enchantments or other stuff, maybe it could be a little bit better, because then you could flicker your sagas to get the new chapters multiple times. But yeah, this card is just too slow and just too situational to build around it. Now, this is one of the cards that everybody was debating with me about in the comments when I said this would be a trap card, because everyone said this has hexproof and haste, it's going to be killing your opponent with 1 attack and they'll never be able to predict that this is coming, and you could give it trample so easily is what everybody said. But it's got a 51% win rate. It's basically a D-level card. I've tried to play this card multiple times in my Premier drafts and at FNM, and the fact that you can just block this forever with 1/1 tokens and recruit tokens and the elves that you can make with landfall, there's just so many ways to chump block this, just doesn't really make sense. And again, it's a 7 mana card that doesn't just win you the game. This format is way too fast for a card that doesn't really help you, and your opponents are probably going to be curving out and then playing a creature post-combat. So they're almost never going to have shields down for you to do this. and a lot of the green decks are not that aggressive unless you're playing the green-black one. Now, for 7 mana, the card or creature that you play needs to basically say, I win the game on it. So that's why I was a little bit higher on Stone Giant of the High Pass, because this card is basically a 2-for-1 no matter what. Even if they kill this before you get to do anything, you still have a 3-1 colorless wall artifact, which is great because it can still block and kill something, right? So for 7 mana, this card basically says, kill me, or next turn I win the game. This card does not say that. This card says, I'm going to attack and you better just chump block, and I hope that I also don't need to leave this back to block. And also, 7 toughness is not that hard to kill, right? You can just triple block this with something. Or some of these amass tokens get really large. Or you just attack and then your opponent has some type of combat trick or pump spell, right? So, or you can lose to Settle in the Wreckage because it doesn't target, right? There's just so many cards that blank this, and in general, if you see a vanilla creature like this without trample, it's just not good. Now, I was also right about the Eagles Are Coming. I put this in tier 2, and a lot of you said that this is like a bomb level rare. It's going to change the format. It's going to be so amazing. But the reason is that its kicker cost makes it super difficult. Triple plains, triple white, is really, really hard to come by. And there's a lot of turns that's kind of awkward where you don't know if you want to play this before you declare blocks, because then you won't be able to attack that next turn because they come in on the following upkeep. So there's some times where you want to play this on your turn even, so that you can actually attack with your big flying creatures on your next turn because they want to have summoning sickness. So like the order of this just gets a little awkward. Yes, you can blank a removal spell with this. So it's a good card, but it's not a bomb. It's only got a 58% win rate. There's tons of other white rares that are performing significantly better than this. And by the way, if you want to know what the best rares are currently according to actual 17 lands draft data, you should watch my draft meta update video right over here, because I do talk about the very clear-cut like bomb level rares that all have like 62% win rate or above. This one is a fine card, but not something you should like automatically think you should be in white for. And yes, it does work with tokens. If you do bounce a token, even though they fizzle, you still get to make a 4/4 bird. And one of the cards that I did predict correctly for the mythic level uncommon is the Mountain King's Return. There's just so much value you get out of this. If you build your deck correctly, you're going to have a lot of 2-drops and 3-drops, so you can almost always you're guaranteed to get a 1/1, plus that thing gets recurred back from the graveyard the next turn, and then you get a +1/+1 counter on top of all of that value. So this card is fantastic. White has very good uncommons and very, very good rares, but the commons in white are trash. So I don't agree that white is like the second best color, even though according to 17 lands data it is. But I do think this is definitely worth a pack one, pick one, because it is one of the best uncommons in the entire set if you build appropriately. So I was right about a lot of the cards in this format, but I was also wrong about some of them as well. But if you want to know what the true data says in terms of the draft meta update, you should watch my video right over here. And put down a comment below if you think any of my other comments are right or wrong.